As we're coming to the end of my shoot prep, I want to talk to you about what most guys want is building a superhero style physique. We've seen the crazy transformations we've seen for people like Bond and Marvel movies and things like this. And like, how do we get a physique like this? Is it hours and hours and hours in the gym? Is it hardly any food and low carbs? Is it anabolic steroids? In some cases it is. But what can you do? The person that's not going to do that, the person that doesn't have time for that, to get themselves in the best shape possible. Tip number one is get yourselves lean. When we're looking at the superhero physique, what we define this as almost is this V taper, this wide shoulders, narrow waist. Now, getting a narrow waist will do a couple of things. First off, getting leaner will allow you to have that narrow waist and to give you that V taper with, in a very, very short period of time. Building muscle takes a long time, but getting leaner, dropping body fat can happen in a very, very, very short period of time. So that allows that to happen. Also, when we get leaner, we look considerably bigger. I'm now at the end of a diet where I've dropped about 12 kilos. Now, am I bigger muscular-wise? Probably not. But do I look bigger? Absolutely. And the reason is because I'm leaner, everything becomes tighter to the skin and we look considerably more defined. So tip number one is get yourself leaner. How do we do that? Track your intake. Find out what your current intake is in terms of calories and be brutally honest with yourself. What's the cooking oils you have? What's the drinks that you have? You're having the big milky lattes 3-4 times a day? What's your weekends like? People aren't honest with the weekends. What are you snacking and just grabbing and not accounting for? Get a true representation of where your calories are at, and then you know how much you need to reduce that by. You can go through every calorie calculator in the world, but they're all a best guess. The best way of doing it is finding where you're at and adjusting from there. If you want to get started immediately, starting at around about 10 calories per pound of your body weight is a good place to start. And it will allow you then to adjust based off the fact that are you losing 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week. And if you're trying to get lean as quick as possible, 1% is a good target to aim for. So if you're 100 kilos, that's 1 kilo. If you're 80 kilos, that's 800 grams per week. Tip number one. Tip number two is know the illusion of size. If I put size over you in a year and I put it over everything, 2 kilos of muscle mass may not seem like very much. But if I put that onto your delts, onto your arms, onto your upper back, all of a sudden it looks like you've gained twice as much. So when we're looking at that V taper, what are the important things to bear in mind? It's going to be, what are the size of the shoulders? Have we got this cap shoulder here that makes our waist look smaller? Have we got good lats? Our upper back, is that got some muscularity? If we can develop those muscles, that creates that V taper. I would also argue improving your chest will also do the same thing. I'm a big fan of pro wrestling, hence the CM Punk shirt. And often what I was admired about wrestlers as a kid is that they had these big chests where it almost looked like those action figures where if you pulled them apart, the top under the chest broke away from the bottom part under the chest. And I thought that action figure look really was like, wow, that's how a guy should look. And I'm sure I'm not the only guy watching this that thinks the same thing. So building across through that chest, through the shoulders, through the upper back will make a huge difference to how your physique looks. What are the best exercises for this? When we're looking at our back, this becomes pretty complicated, but to be simplistic, our lats will extend the arm and drive in towards the spine. So adding in some form of horizontal pull like a pull down and some form of, vertical pull like a pull down and some sort of horizontal pull like a row is going to be a good place to start, adding one of each into your routine. In terms of our chest is a fan-shaped muscle. It's going to attach onto the arm here and splay out onto our clavicle, onto our ribs, and onto our sternum. It drives our arm across, but also down and slightly up. So we've got to look at what exercises are going to work these fibers if we want a proper development. Having some sort of more vertical push, which also adds a little bit of volume to the shoulders, is going to be of benefit for the upper fibers of the chest. Some form of more horizontal push, your bench presses, your flat dumbbell presses, your floor presses, is going to be good for the mid fibers of the chest. For the lower fibers of the chest, high to low cable flies, dips are often good options here. And what's the best exercise for shoulders? Hands down, it's the lateral raise. Using a cable is probably better from a profile perspective and allow you to keep the tension relatively consistent through the whole rep, but that may not always work well in a busy gym. So dumbbell lateral raises will be fine. Big thing though with dumbbell lateral raises, lean yourself slightly forward and come out to about 10 and 2. That will allow you to make sure that your shoulder sits in a much nicer position and just avoid any niggles sorted down the line. So that's sort of my tips of building a superhero style physique. Build and prioritize the muscles that create that illusion of width. Get lean enough that your waist becomes narrow and everything looks tight to the body. And be patient, be consistent. These things don't happen overnight, especially if it's not your job, like a Christian Bale, to get in shape for Batman. Understand there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes and their sole purpose is getting in shape. You have responsibility of work, you have family, you have children, you have all these other things. Understand that it's going to take time. The quicker you rush the process, the more likely you'll rebound on the other end, and you may look like a superhero for 1 week, but if you're 6 weeks later, you're back to the dad bod, it's not what you signed up for.